Hey, hello and welcome to the From Idea to Profit, the IPR Business Blueprint podcast, brought to you by the IP Resource. I'm your co-host, Tim Risen, and I'm joined by my co-host, John Wiley.
Hello.
Hey, John. And today we are discussing, what are we discussing today, John?
The accidental entrepreneur.
I love it. We want to start today's broadcast with a word from our sponsor. Today's episode is brought to you by Patent Search Made Simple, the cutting-edge patent search software available through the IP Resource. Patent Search Made Simple simplifies your prior art search by using AI to enhance your search parameters, keywords, and resources where the results are drawn. Simplify the search, maximize the results. Go to www.theipresource.com, use the code IPR20 checkout, and get 20% off your prior art search today. We would also like to celebrate the invention of the week. On January 24th, this day, back in 1871, Charles Goodyear Jr. received a patent for the Goodyear welt. It's a machine for sewing boots and shoes. Some of you might be aware of the Goodyear name. He utilized his rubber sole processes to eventually make automobile tires, which eventually changed transportation as we know it. So pretty wild innovation. So John, why don't you kick us off on the accidental entrepreneur?
I'd be happy to, Tim. Thank you for the handoff. The accidental entrepreneur comes in many different forms. I'm going to give you a short story of how mine got started. In 2017, I started my consulting and marketing firm accidentally about 3 months earlier than I had planned to do it. I was at a conference and in Hawaii, fortunately enough, and a client of mine asked me if we could talk about his business, and he asked me if I could take over his marketing for him. I couldn't do that because it would be a conflict of interest because I was a publisher of a magazine that was selling marketing services to him, so it couldn't be like double dipping. But that company had been recently purchased by a small private equity firm, and they were consolidating, and my publication was about $2 million in a $70 million business. So it was pretty good chance that mine wasn't going to hang around for very long. So I told Steve, my client, said that I can't do it now, but I think this is what's going on with my company that I work for. And I'm planning on starting firm at the beginning of 2018. And he said, great. Well, as soon as you're ready, give me a call and I'll be your first client. So we go home. I'm sitting in my office and the phone rings at working at home. It's my boss calling from New York with HR. And guess what happens? I get fired. So now this is where the accidental entrepreneur comes into play. I thought about it for a little bit, see what I'm going to do. I didn't tell my family at the time. I took a couple of deep breaths, picked up the phone, called Steve, who lived in Austin. And I said, hey, Steve, looks like that conflict of interest is no longer a conflict. So he goes, great. So then he says, I'm going to be at this convention in San Diego in a couple of weeks. I live up in the LA area. He goes, why don't you draw up a contract, bring it down, and we'll sign it and get rolling. I said, great. And then I went and told my family that I got fired and said, I started a business today.
Quite the turnaround.
Quite the switch. So I went down and met Steve. We signed the contract. A month or so later, I traveled to a lot of conferences. So I was doing what I do best is, work in the room at a convention, meeting people. And I ran into a prospect who I was trying for a couple of years to get them to buy some advertising. And we sat down in the lounge and we had a beverage or two, and we started talking about business and what I'm doing and what they're doing. And then we chatted for a little bit more. And then when I got home from that conference, the first call I received was that former prospect and said, we want to hire you to do our marketing services for you. So now I was planning on taking about 3 or 4 months to set up my business. I was really flying by the seat of my pants. I was actually like building a plane while I'm flying it. So now I went to employed, unemployed in 2 weeks, starting a new business. And rather than the 3-month ramp up, I had to get it ready in 2 weeks. A month later, I get this new client. Now adding on top of that, I realized that I greatly undercharged my first client. So I charged more for my second client. So I went from making, 4 figures a month to almost 5 figures a month in about a 3-month time, which was great. But it took a lot of work and it took a lot of pressure. And I was actually sitting with another meeting with a potential client, and the CEO says to me, he goes, "John, how long do you think you can do this by yourself?" And that was a real, slap in the face, like a really hard one too. It hurt, stung. And it made me wake up. So I ended up doing some outsourcing of my services. I knew a lot of copywriters because in the publishing industry. So it was easy for me to find those people. I got a website developer because I could scratch it out, but it wasn't an expert. And this guy was an expert in SEO. And we started really delivering, but it took. So I officially formed my business in 2017, but it really didn't get going until January 2018. But I'm fortunate that it did, and we're really doing well. But it was a very stressful few months. I was making less money initially than I was in my old job, but then I was making a lot more than I was when I had my business up and running. But the one thing I had to do in this process, and this is the important part, the moral of the story, if you will, is I had to change my mindset. I'm scrambling to build a marketing company in 2 weeks by myself and thinking, can I do this? Am I going to screw it up? If, I'm flying this plane, there's no oxygen mask, there's no parachutes. If it goes down, it's going to go down in a flaming ball of fire. Fortunately, I changed my mindset, which is something I feel I'm pretty good about. And I said, rather than say, I'm not sure if I can do this, I changed around and start telling myself, not only can I do this, but I can do it really well. And that flipped my whole perspective on the entrepreneur business. But in the accidental entrepreneur, it happens often. I mean, I've seen many people leave their jobs to start a coaching business or leave their jobs to be a consultant without any strategy at all. And there's a lot of people out there that have been successful in doing so, but there's a lot that haven't.
Yeah. I think you and I have both seen a lot of the people who would fit this category of accidental entrepreneur. They're the ones who, they're working their job or, even in the career, the field they've been in for years, and they just become so disheartened by the either the nepotism or bureaucracy or whatever might be going on that feels like it's interfering with what they really love about the industry that they're in. So they feel like starting afresh, with their own business, and that way they would only bring to the table what it is that they admire about it, and which I think is admirable. But, it is our mission with IP Resources to help businesses, especially startups, really have the mindset and the resources for success. And so that's why I love this subject that we're talking about, because I agree with you. I think that there's a lot of people that fit that category where, again, they have a passion, they have something that they really want to accomplish, and I feel that they have a lot of insight on, but they're missing a lot of the right mindset because, again, the shift from the W-2 to being a business owner is quite the shift. I think let's have the conversation here. Some of the main topics about what we think are the things that are basically the three main things to kind of consider and think about as you're starting and building your business. And this is for anyone, like whether you are thinking about starting it or you've already started it and you're in the beginning stages. One of the first questions that I was asked by a business consultant / coach when I decided to finally seek one out after being an entrepreneur for decades. Was, are you, are you creating or have you created a business or just another job for yourself? And it took me a minute to think about that. And I'm like, well, I'm running a business. I'm doing all these things, but wait a minute. Am I just working a bunch of different jobs that I've assigned myself? And I've really, as I explored my entrepreneurial journey, found myself in that category where more often than not, I had just created a bunch of jobs for myself. Would you agree?
Yeah, completely. That's what I was doing. I was teaching myself how to create a website and frankly, doing very, very mediocre. I bought a CRM. I kind of knew that side of the business because those are services I was selling as a publisher. But yeah, I mean, you don't know what you don't know until you start finding out that you don't know it sometimes, right? And then there's things that you have to do that are uncomfortable and you don't want to do them, but you have to do it.
Yeah. And I think, one of the first pieces of advice I did get as an entrepreneur, I was very young, in my late teens, early 20s. And that was, and I share this with all of our clients who are in this stage of first starting off, is once you believe that you've kind of made it or you know everything to know about your business, that's the first day of your failure. Because we are in a constant state of learning, we're in a constant state of pivoting and adapting to new situations. And we do get locked into the jobs, right? The tasks. And we get locked into that process of, oh, this is my job. This is what I'm doing. And even though it's different from, it's not assigned to me by my manager or my former employer, it's assigned to me by me. So therefore, it's a business, but it's really not. And, when we make that distinction, right, of, I've always liked the term, I know Tony Robbins talks about it a lot, the difference between a operator and an owner.
Yeah.
And, would you share an experience that you have of when you know that you made that transition in a certain category or just in your mindset, when it comes to your business, where you transition from an operator in that area of your business to the owner?
Oh, sure. As I was, so I have my two clients, right? And I'm making some money and realizing that, a lot of it is coming from the perspective of when I was out there in that publisher role, also being the business development person. So I was responsible for sales, talking to companies who are getting started and, giving them advice on how they should ramp up and not jump right in to something, because you're going to spend a lot of money and nothing's going to happen. But where I really got grounded was when I met this gentleman who we are still very good friends with, and we still do work together, which is nice. Listen to his experience and his advice on, like outsourcing the content, hiring somebody off of Fiverr to build an email campaign for me, because that's a really time consuming type of thing to do. When I realized that, and also some good books like The E-Myth Revisited is a great that covers that.
Absolutely.
Will It Fly by Pat Flynn. Donald Miller's The Brand Story is another great resource. And I took those to heart and I wrote out my brand story. I did the classes and I learned that I cannot grow unless I get help. And I think that's one of the toughest things to realize, that you need to recognize and take it in, that you can't be the expert of everything. So hire for your weaknesses. I think this is what we've probably heard this before. Hire for your weaknesses and work on your strengths. So
excellent.
That made a big difference, big shift in my plans, and actually led me to more clientele.
Yeah, a really good point, and yeah, well said. You're going to walk us into the second point?
One of the things that I think we would probably say this is, I think all these 3 points are equal.
Well, yeah, I wouldn't give it a hierarchy in any
Yeah.
way.
But you might want to, and that's okay. There's no good or wrong or right on this program. But what's really important to me right now when I'm working, and with Tim and I, when we're working together, there's a purpose behind what we're doing. And us having had our own businesses on the side, when I made that shift after COVID, which I really got hurt financially bad, or my clients did, frankly, I didn't get hurt so bad, but I shifted to be working with people who are more purpose-driven, who are really have a why behind what they're doing, not just making money. And that if that's your only goal in life, then that's fine. That's your decision. But I think you'll find greater satisfaction and joy when you're following or have a good why to support the work that you're doing. And I think it's greatly overlooked by a lot of people.
I think it's a big point. And I'd like to share a little bit, my entrepreneurial journey. And one of the things is that I recognize as a young person was after seeing my parents and, my grandparents, the message was, and I'm sure it was the same message you saw when you were a child, was you work, you put in your time, you do good for your company, you retire, right? And that's the crux of life. Like that's the deal, right? You put in the good time and you do your best for your company. Your company will take care of you. And you know what? You save up the money, you invest or whatever, and then you retire and your life is yours. And that never was appealing to me, even in the slightest, that kind of concept, like working for somebody else just to work off of them and then save up my money. And then when I had enough money that I felt was enough, that I would retire. And I didn't really have the wherewithal in my childish mind to really comprehend what it was I was feeling. But as an adult looking back, I knew that I wanted to have more freedom in my life. Freedom, not in the sense that I can just do whatever I want, but freedom in my decisions and freedom in the way that I did things and freedom in also accepting accountability and responsibility for my successes and my failures. I was not interested in playing the blame game. What you see to a lot of people. I mean, I think most people that know people who have jobs, right, who work on their W-2 and have managers and bosses, there are a lot that love their job and they love what they do. I'm not saying that everyone fits this category by any means, but I'm sure we all know somebody who endlessly complains about their job and their coworkers and their management and all these things. And it's just one of those things where in my mind as a younger person, I saw that as something I didn't want to find. I didn't want to find myself in that position. And when I had the opportunity to kind of test that out, there was an opportunity for young people to sign up for a lottery to get a paper route in my county. And the county is pretty large. This is central Pennsylvania, just outside of Harrisburg, and very large county, a lot of people, but also, there's a lot of farmland and things like that too. But anyways, I got the lottery and I got a route that took up a half of a town. And I didn't know this when I first signed up for this deal. But as it was explained to me what my responsibilities were and how this worked was basically I buy the papers off of the paper company. This route, I'm assigned people that have already signed up for subscriptions and I have to fulfill those subscriptions. But ultimately, it's still up to me to maintain those subscriptions. And if I want to go out and get more, I can. If I really wanted to, I can do a bad enough job that I can reduce the number of subscriptions. Didn't want to have to carry that many papers anymore. But when I realized I had the freedom to make decisions on how I operated in that arena, I ran with it. I tried to test and figure out all the different ways that I can get everyone on every street in my cordon off area to sign up for a subscription. And even to the point where every day I used to buy extra papers and I would hand them out for free with my subscription card, like buried in it. And even to the point of doing cold calls, the version of cold calls in the early 90s, which was going door knocking, right? You imagine this 12-year-old kid just knocking on your door like, hey, I deliver your paper to your neighbor. They love me. Would you like the paper too? And I had the whole spiel. It only cost this much. That's it. And yeah, it was, but I could tell you, my why became that freedom. Right. So I didn't know that I got that. I didn't know what that was at the time. Looking back, that I can define it. But I knew that as I approached adulthood and I needed to start make decisions on what I wanted to do with my life, the idea and concept of running my own business and operating with that kind of freedom was crucial and actually necessary. And so that became my why.
Well done. I helped a buddy out with his newspaper route. We lived in the foothills. There was very few flat roads, but it was the last time I did it because there's no way I was pedaling that bike myself.
Yeah.
And I decided to wash cars instead at age 12 to get my new skateboard wheels as a young entrepreneur. Speaking of entrepreneur, I'm going to plagiarize from Oxford Dictionary. An entrepreneur is a person who organizes and operates a business or businesses, taking on greater than normal financial risk in order to do so. And I would like to add to that, as an entrepreneur, you're taking much more on than just the financial risk. And it really stems from your perspective on work, not work-life balance, because there really is no balance. Not everything's of equal weight at the same time. You might have a really important call to get onto with a new client, and maybe your kid has a flu. It's an integration. There's no balance, and you have to think about that because your time, even if you're a W-2 employee, you're burning the candle at both ends, trying to rise up the ranks. You're not getting anywhere, and you're missing your kids' bedtime. You're leaving before they wake up in the morning. That was my dad. You're missing out, and they're missing you.
Yeah, that's a big deal. And, I think, one note, like my final thought on this subject of why and the power of the why, right, is, actually two parts. One is understanding that why can change. It's actually healthy, right? As you grow up and as you mature and as you have different experiences, your values will change and the reasons that you do things change. And so I think it's okay for people to understand that, your why will change, but it's always crucial to have a knowledge and understanding of your why, what it is, and so you can focus on it. And that's the second point, is because why you need to focus on your why is when the hard times come, right? When I've had instances when business was not doing so well and everybody, and I mean everybody, there was nobody saying stick with it. Everyone else saying jump ship, get a job. But that why really, really said, no, I'm going to pivot. I'm going to try different things. I'm going to do different things. And I'm going to just nose to the grindstone, figure it out. I mean, working twice as many hours as anyone else was working. If people were working 40 hours, I'm working 80. If people were working 60, I'm working 120. And the whole point, why was I doing that? I was doing that because of my why. Because at that time, my desire, my desire for freedom and my desire to make those decisions on my own was so crucial to me that I was willing to endure hardship. And so I always emphasize with all of our clients and anyone who's either in or entering the entrepreneurial world, know your why and hold fast to it, because the tough times will come and you'll need to know it to get you through those tough times.
Yeah. Write it down. Put it somewhere that you can see it every day. We'd like to take a moment to recognize our second sponsor, Patent Pending Made Simple. Secure your idea before someone else does. instantly with the help of AI and optional illustration preparation or review and attorney review and filing. Every great invention starts with an idea, but without patent pending protection, your idea is vulnerable. Don't let months of uncertainty, legal fees, or complicated paperwork slow you down. Introducing Patent Pending Made Simple, the AI-powered solution that makes drafting a provisional patent application effortless. Why choose Patent Pending Made Simple? AI-assisted drafting. Our intelligent system guides you through the process, ensuring clarity, completeness, and compliance. No legal jargon, no guesswork. It's designed for inventors and business owners. Patent pending simplifies the complexities of patent law. Fast and affordable. Get a professional quality provisional patent application in hours, not weeks, for a fraction of the cost of traditional legal services. Patent pending status equals instant protection. Secure your invention while you refine and test your product, build your business, or attract investors. Your ideas deserve protection. Get started today. Don't wait for someone else to file first. Start your patent pending application now with Patent Pending Made Simple at www.theipresource.com and use promo code IPR20 for 20% off today.
Excellent. All right. We'll enter into our last talking point. And we have a disclaimer with this last one, which is there's no wrong answers to this question, but we bring it up because it's important to understand. And the question is, the business you're building and the mindset you have in building and developing your business, are you with the goal and the mindset just simply to generate revenue? Or are you establishing a legacy? This is an important distinction, but again, no wrong answers. But it's something that we feel that every entrepreneur, no matter what stage they're at, and I mean this, like you could be just starting off, you could be an entrepreneur for 20 years. And I've known entrepreneurs for 20 years who have never asked themselves this question. And so, but when they ask it, it really, really does clarify where they're putting their time and what it is that they're doing. So, John, what do you have to say concerning generating revenue or establishing legacy? Because I know personally that you have experience with both.
Revenue is always great, especially if you're covering all your expenses and you're making a profit. Legacy is different. So I have 3 daughters. One of them actually has her own business and she's running right now. I don't really see any of them wanting to take over the things that I do because there's stuff that I'm passionate about. Again, getting back to my why. But the legacy for me is not necessarily them taking over my business. It's who I've helped along the way. What I've been able to contribute to communities. I'm part of a community of dads. There's about 800 strong. I run a business call team in that community every Thursday to help men make these same decisions, dads, fathers, to start a business, to change their careers, whatever it may be. So having that legacy goes beyond generational wealth for me. It's what have I done for my community? Who have I helped today?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's well said. And it's not that, I think you would also agree, right? The one does not cancel out the other, right? Like if you're operating from the point of, I want to build a legacy, it's not like you're just whatever about revenue, like forget about it. No, the point is the mindset. If your mindset is, I need to generate revenue today. I need to, what do I need to do? What pieces do I need to put into place to get cash flow coming in, rather than is everything I'm doing fitting inside of this legacy that I'm building, like this legacy that includes my personal core values, my family values, even my social circle, like who I relate to and who I connect with, and even building a tribe and a team, right? Like what is the culture you're creating? Like this is also legacy. It's that understanding that I can make decisions based off of how can I get money in the door alone, or I can have the mindset and the understanding that everything I do fits a certain culture, a certain set of values, a certain set of things that revolve around what's important and what I'm passionate about. And so to me, like again, there's no wrong answer. I mean, I'll never fault anyone for saying, hey, I started this business so I can make money. That's not a bad thing. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I'm not saying like, either one, there's no right or wrong. It's actually what's right for you. Right. But again, the distinction is there because there are people, I think, that they believe that they're creating a legacy, but all the decisions they're making, they're not holding to those core values. They're not holding to what's important to them. They're not holding to that important passion that got them started in the first place. Right. And that's, I see most entrepreneurs do that. The latter, the last thing, which is where they started this business. They knew their why. They had that passion. They knew what they wanted to do, but they let the tasks and the jobs and making sure that they had enough money to pay everything off and to keep the doors open, that they lost that passion or they lost sight of it. And that's where I see a lot of entrepreneurs kind of getting burnt out and disillusioned and defeated. And yeah, it's a very hard situation, and I see a lot of entrepreneurs fall into that trap.
Yeah, I agree.
So, well, thank you everyone for joining us today. It has been an awesome pleasure with our inaugural episode, The Accidental Entrepreneur. And again, this is the Idea to Profit podcast, the IPR Business Blueprint, brought to you by the IP Resource. And again, I'm Tim Risen. I'm with John Wiley. Again, thank you. If you really enjoyed this, please hit the like, subscribe, get the notification bell so you can never miss a valuable episode with all these good tidbits. We're going to have discussions about business, about intellectual property, how to best protect it. We have a lot of guests lined up, other entrepreneurs, marketers, business owners, and some amazing case studies coming up. But also we're going to be joined by some really top-notch IP attorneys that are going to be able to share very, very interesting and wonderful topics concerning how best to protect and utilize your IP from the legal standpoint, and also what's happening. We just got a new president, and there's already changes. There's a new director of the USPTO is about to be announced here this week. And there could be changes that are coming, but we want to help people, business owners, inventors, the innovators of the country to be very aware of what's happening. And so every week we're going to be having an episode. So don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to be notified, because there's going to be a lot of interesting conversations to be had here. And if you ever have any questions or you want to contact John and I and check out our resources, please visit www.theipresource.com. And there's a little link there to schedule a free consultation. Another thing I highly recommend anyone do is, if they're a business owner, whether, again, no matter how seasoned or not seasoned you are, we have assessments. We have business assessments, IP readiness assessments, even a startup assessment. And you can find those at our site as well, www.theipresource.com/assessments. Do that today. Take the assessment. They're free. You get a free consultation afterwards to know exactly where you stand in your business, both from the business point of view and on where you stand with your IP. If you have exposed IP, what you need to do to secure it. And that is it. John, any final words?
Nope. Thank you all for showing up, and we look forward to continuing some conversations with you down the road.